The Forgotten Language. The Grand Conclave of Galactic Species convened every 50 standard cycles beneath the colossal crystal dome of Nexus Station. Representatives from over 3,000 civilizations gathered in the vast amphitheater, their bodies a testament to the universe's creativity. Some floated on anti-gravity fields, others slithered across polished floors, while many balanced on numerous appendages or hovered in specialized atmospheric chambers. At the center of the dome stood the reason for this extraordinary gathering, a massive obsidian pedestal where the last known Draconis remained in suspended animation. The species was ancient beyond comprehension, believed to be among the first sentient races to navigate the stars. Their crystalline scales shifted colors like oil on water, and even in stasis, the creature emanated an aura of power that made lesser species instinctively retreat. High Admiral Zex Talon of the Vexari Dominion presided over the proceedings, his chidnous exoskeleton gleaming under the artificial light. "We convene the 427th Linguistic Challenge," he announced, his translator implant converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic code. "For centuries, we have attempted to establish communication with the Draconis. Their knowledge of the ancient cosmos could propel our civilization forward by millennia." The statement was met with murmurs of agreement. The Draconis were living artifacts, repositories of wisdom from the dawn of sentient life. Yet despite the most sophisticated translation algorithms and telepathic probes, no species had managed to decipher their language. As tradition dictates, representatives may approach in order of their civilization's galactic admission date. Zex Talon continued. "The Arcorian collective will begin." A luminous cloud of interconnected particles drifted toward the pedestal. The Arcorians, known for their collective consciousness and advanced understanding of quantum linguistics, attempted to communicate through rhythmic pulses of light. After 20 minutes of increasingly complex patterns, they retreated in failure. One by one, the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy tried their methods. Psychic impressions, subparticle vibrations, chronological displacement signaling, all met with the same result: absolute silence from the Draconis. The proceedings continued for days, each failure adding to the growing sense of futility. It wasn't until the 7th day that the human delegation was called. As the newest admitted species to the conclave, they were last in line and largely considered a ceremonial inclusion rather than a serious contender. Laughter rippled through the amphitheater when a single human child stepped forward. She appeared no older than 12 standard Earth years, with dark hair pulled into a tight braid, and wearing a simple white jumpsuit emblazoned with the Earth Diplomatic Corps insignia. "The humans send a juvenile," scoffed a Tralaxian diplomat, their 3 eyes blinking in astonishment. "This is an insult to the proceedings." Admiral Zex Talon raised a serrated appendage for silence. "State your designation, human." The girl stood straight, unintimidated by the thousands of alien eyes upon her. "I am Mira Chin, linguistics specialist of Earth Station Omega." More laughter erupted, but Mira ignored it as she approached the pedestal. Unlike the other delegates who brought arrays of sophisticated equipment, she carried only a small handheld device and wore what appeared to be primitive audio receptors over her ears. "Our data indicates humans possess no exceptional linguistic or telepathic abilities," the Admiral stated skeptically. "What method do you propose that has not been attempted by significantly more advanced species?" Mira looked up at the towering official. "The old way, Admiral. I will listen." This provoked open derision from the gathered delegates. The Vexari were particularly vocal in their mockery, their laughter a series of high-pitched clicks that reverberated throughout the chamber. Yet as Mira approached the stasis field, something unprecedented occurred. The Draconis, dormant during all previous attempts, stirred slightly. Its massive eye, with a pupil like a swirling galaxy, opened fractionally. The chamber fell silent. Mira placed her device on the ground and activated it. Unlike the complex machinery other species had deployed, her tool projected nothing more than a simple sound wave visualization. She then closed her eyes and did something none of the other delegates had thought to do. She listened. The Draconis remained still, but Mira's device began recording subtle vibrations, frequencies so low they were nearly imperceptible to most species. After several minutes of absolute silence in the chamber, Mira opened her eyes and spoke, not in any recognizable human language, but in a series of deep, resonant tones that seemed to vibrate through the very atoms of the station. The effect was immediate. The Draconis fully opened its eyes, the swirling galaxies of its pupils expanding as it focused on the small human before it. Then, to the astonishment of every being present, it responded in kind, a deep melodic rumble that made the crystal dome vibrate. Gasps and exclamations of shock rippled through the assembly. After centuries of failed attempts by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, a human child had achieved communication. "Impossible," whispered the Arcorian representative, their luminous form dimming in disbelief. Mira turned to address the stunned audience. "The Draconis doesn't communicate through language as we understand it. They speak through resonance, vibrations that carry meaning through the fabric of space itself. These frequencies are similar to ancient Earth whale songs, but infinitely more complex." Admiral Zex Talon leaned forward, his skepticism fading. "How did you discover this when our most sophisticated analyses failed?" Mira smiled slightly. "Because I have hyperlinguistic synesthesia, a rare neural condition that allows me to perceive sound as patterns and colors. On Earth, it's considered a disorder. Here, it's a bridge." She turned back to the Draconis and continued the exchange, the resonant vibrations growing in complexity. The massive creature had now fully roused from its semi-dormant state, its crystalline scales shifting through colors never before witnessed by most species present. "It calls itself Vor-Calith," Mira translated, her voice filled with wonder. "It is the last observer of the first dawn, and it has been waiting for someone who could hear the cosmic echo." The mockery that had greeted Mira's arrival had transformed into stunned silence. The human child stood before the ancient being, engaged in what appeared to be a profound conversation through resonant frequencies that seemed to bypass conventional translation entirely. The Draconis weren't in stasis, Mira explained as she interpreted the vibrations. They were speaking continuously, but at frequencies most species filter out as background radiation. They'd been trying to communicate with us for centuries. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The greatest minds in the galaxy had approached the problem with increasingly complex technology, when the solution required something far simpler, the ability to truly listen. As the exchange continued, Mira's expression grew increasingly grave. She turned to address the assembly once more. "Vor-Calith says there is a reason they have been trying to communicate with us, a warning about something coming from the darkest reaches of the cosmos, something the first dawn civilizations encountered before most of our species had even evolved." The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs as the implications became clear. The Draconis hadn't been merely a curiosity or repository of ancient knowledge. They were sentinels, guardians against a threat so ancient it had been forgotten by all but the oldest species in existence. "This is only the beginning," Mira said, her young voice somehow carrying through the vast chamber. "Vor-Calith says we must prepare. The silence is returning." As the first day of communication drew to a close, the human delegation was suddenly at the center of galactic attention. The child they had brought as their representative, previously dismissed and mocked, had achieved what thousands of years of advanced science could not. Admiral Zex Talon approached Mira as the session concluded. How did humans, a species barely a century into interstellar travel, produce someone capable of this connection? Mira looked up at the imposing alien. "Perhaps because we're still learning to listen, Admiral. Sometimes the newest eyes see what the oldest have forgotten to look for." The Admiral's translator struggled to convey his complex emotional response, but his posture communicated respect where hours earlier there had been only condescension. As news of the breakthrough spread across the galaxy, humanity's status shifted dramatically. The species that had been grudgingly admitted to the conclave was now the focal point of interspecies diplomacy, all because a child with a condition once considered a disability had heard what countless advanced civilizations could not. And as Mira prepared for the second day of communication, she understood that the real challenge was only beginning. Whatever the silence was, it threatened all life in the galaxy. And somehow, humanity would play a crucial role in the coming storm. The cosmic secret. Dawn never truly came on Nexus Station, only the programmed brightening of the artificial light that filtered through the crystal dome. Yet something felt different as delegates assembled for the second day of the linguistic challenge, a palpable tension, an anticipation that transcended species barriers. Mira arrived flanked by the human diplomatic team, their expressions a mixture of pride and apprehension. Overnight, the young linguist had become the most important human in the galaxy, a responsibility that weighed heavily on her slight shoulders. "Are you prepared to continue, Mira Chen?" Admiral Zex Telon asked, his tone significantly more respectful than the previous day. "Yes, Admiral," Mira replied. "But I should warn everyone. What Vor-Caliph has to share may challenge our understanding of galactic history." As Mira approached the pedestal, the massive Draconis seemed to await her, its crystalline scales now pulsing with anticipation. The previous day's derision had been replaced by reverent silence as thousands of representatives leaned forward to witness the historic exchange. Mira activated her device and closed her eyes, immersing herself in the resonant language. The vibrations began softly, then built in complexity until the entire chamber hummed with subtle harmonics. "Vor-Caliph wishes to show us something," Mira announced, her voice steady despite the obvious strain of translation, a memory from before most of our civilizations existed. The Draconis raised a massive clawed appendage, and the air above the assembly shimmered. What followed was not simply a projection, but an experience that seemed to bypass normal sensory input. Each being in the chamber found themselves perceiving a time when the galaxy was young. Stars burned brighter, closer together in the cosmic dawn. Civilizations flourished on countless worlds, many in forms utterly alien to current understanding, and among them, the Draconis, not as solitary creatures, but as guardians, observers who traveled the cosmos gathering knowledge and sharing wisdom. Then came the silence, a wave of nothingness that extinguished stars and consciousness alike. Not a physical force, but a fundamental alteration in the fabric of reality that rendered communication and connection impossible. Civilizations collapsed not from violence, but from absolute isolation. As the vision faded, the assembly remained stunned. Mira translated the deep resonant vibrations that followed. "The silence is not a species or weapon," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "It's a fundamental breakdown in the connective field that allows consciousness to spread beyond individual minds. The antithesis of resonance itself." The implications were staggering. For most species, technological civilization had only become possible through communication and cooperation. If the ability to meaningfully connect was somehow disrupted, how did the Draconis survive? Asked the Arcorian representative. Mira listened to the resonant response before answering. "They exist partially outside normal space-time. Their consciousness operates on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. But even they were diminished, from millions to mere thousands, and now to one." Admiral Zex Talon stepped forward. "And this silence is returning. What evidence suggests this?" Mira gestured to her device, which now displayed complex waveform patterns. "These are background radiation readings from across the galaxy over the past 5 centuries. There's a progressive dampening effect in the quantum resonance field, subtle, but accelerating. Vor-Caliph says it's the same pattern that preceded the first emergence of the silence. If this threat is real, why have our scientists detected nothing?" demanded a Trilaxian scientist. "Because you weren't listening for it," Mira replied simply. "Just as you didn't hear the Draconis speaking for centuries." This statement caused uncomfortable shifting among many delegates. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had potentially missed an existential threat because they had stopped paying attention to the fundamentals of connection. Vorkilith says, "There's a reason I can hear the resonance when others cannot." Mira continued, "Humans are among the few species whose neurology still retains patterns from the first dawn era. Our brains developed in isolation from galactic tampering." She paused, listening to more vibrations before translating. The Draconis believes humanity's recent emergence into galactic society is not coincidental. We've developed in parallel with the return of the silence. The human diplomatic team exchanged shocked glances. Earth had been discovered by galactic explorers less than a century ago, considered an unremarkable world inhabited by a technologically emerging species. Now it appeared their place in cosmic history might be far more significant. "Can this silence be stopped?" asked a representative from the silicon-based Lithosian collective. Mira engaged in a lengthy exchange with Vorkilith before responding. "Yes, but not through conventional means. The Draconis can generate a counter-resonance that stabilizes the connective field, but they need amplification points throughout the galaxy, living carriers who can maintain the harmonic pattern. And you believe humans are suited for this role?" Admiral Zex Telon asked, his skepticism returning. "Not all humans," Mira clarified. "But those like me, with hyperlinguistic synesthesia, can perceive and reproduce the necessary resonant patterns. There are approximately 50,000 of us on Earth and its colonies." Murmurs spread through the assembly. A species barely a century into interstellar travel, previously dismissed as primitive, now positioned as crucial to galactic survival. Not everyone was convinced. A coalition of ancient species, led by the silicon-based Lithosians, expressed doubt about entrusting such responsibility to humans. "We propose an alternative solution," the Lithosian representative announced. "We will develop technological resonators based on the patterns the human has discovered. There is no need to rely on biological carriers when artificial ones would be more reliable." Mira listened as Vorkilith responded with vibrations so deep that several structural supports in the chamber groaned under the pressure. Vorkilith says artificial resonators would exacerbate the problem. She translated, her expression grave. "The silence feeds on artificial connection. It's a natural correction to technological overreach. Only organic, conscious resonance can counteract it." The debate grew heated, with various factions arguing for different approaches. Throughout it all, Mira remained by the Draconis, engaged in continuous communication that seemed to transcend the political maneuvering around them. Finally, Admiral Zex Talon called for order. "We require proof before committing to a single strategy. If this threat is real, and if humans are indeed crucial to addressing it, both must be demonstrated conclusively." Vorkilith's response came as a resonant wave that washed through the chamber, making translators malfunction and communication systems temporarily fail. When systems restored, delegates found themselves unable to connect to their homeworlds. All long-range communication had ceased. Panic threatened to overtake the assembly until Mira's voice cut through the chaos. "This is a localized demonstration," she explained calmly. "A microcosm of what the silence brings, contained within the station. Vorkilith can restore communication, but wanted you to experience the isolation firsthand." As promised, communications returned minutes later, but the demonstration had made its point. The threat was real, immediate, and beyond conventional understanding. "We will need all 50,000 humans with this condition," Admiral Zex Telon stated. The decision made. "And we will need to develop a galactic-scale implementation strategy immediately." "There's something else," Mira said, her young face solemn beyond her years. "Vorkilith cannot leave this station. The stasis field that appears to contain it is actually supporting it. It is dying, the last of its kind. It can teach us the resonance patterns, but within one standard galactic year, we will be on our own." The revelation cast a shadow over even this potential solution. The fate of countless civilizations would soon rest on the shoulders of a single species, guided by the fading wisdom of an ancient guardian. As the conclave organized into action committees, Mira remained with Vorkalith, the connection between them deepening. The Draconis began imparting knowledge at an accelerated rate, not just about the silence, but about the cosmic history that had been lost, the civilizations that had flourished and fallen, and the delicate balance that sustained conscious life across dimensions. In the days that followed, ships were dispatched to Earth to begin gathering other humans with Mira's condition. Research teams worked feverishly to map the resonance patterns and develop training protocols. Species that had never cooperated now found common purpose in the face of extinction. And throughout it all, the human child who had been laughed at now stood at the center of the greatest collaborative effort in galactic history. The mockery had transformed into respect, then reverence, and finally hope. As Mira explained to Admiral Zex Talon during a rare moment of reflection, the greatest irony is that the silence threatens to isolate us from one another, yet in preparing to fight it, we've achieved unprecedented connection. Perhaps that's been Vorkalith's plan all along, not just to warn us, but to unite us. The Admiral's translator struggled to convey his emotional response, but his next words came through clearly. Your species has much to learn about galactic politics and cosmic history, Mira Chen. But perhaps we have even more to learn from you about listening to what matters most. As the preparations continued and the countdown to Vorkalith's passing began, a new era in galactic history was taking shape, one in which humanity's place was no longer at the margins, but at the very heart of cosmic continuity. And it had all begun because a girl who heard the world differently had taught an entire galaxy how to listen.